are you back in town?
Oh, for several weeks. August we're out of session, so you can find me somewhere in the 29 counties that I represent. I was in Abernathy and Hale Center today, and we'll be in Big Spring, and we're all over the place. I can't even tell you how. I was in Big Spring this past week, and so I'm going to double down on Big Spring this trip, do a town hall out there, and so yeah, a lot of 800 plus thousand people in about 100 cities and 29 counties, so we've got a lot of ground to cover when I come out.
Busy, busy.
Yes.
All right, well, let's just jump right into it. Did you even know there was going to be a protest out there today?
I did not know that there was going to be a protest, but this is, my understanding is this is the second protest from the same group, and this is the George Soros funded MoveOn.org group. And George Soros has funded this group and is pushing these protests out all over the country. And the last time the protesters showed up, and they were peaceful, and I'm sure they're very sincere about and the issue is a very important one. But we posted a statement sign that basically invited them to call the number that we posted and set up a meeting if they want to dialogue about this issue of children at the border, those who are being detained, some along with their parents, some are unaccompanied, and we didn't get one call. So this is the second time that the media is covering a protest at my office that A, I wasn't aware of, B, we invited them to sit down to dialogue via sign because I'm covering 29 counties. My office isn't just in Lubbock, my office is in Sweetwater and Big Spring and Abilene and Throckmorton and Muleshoe, so I've got to be out, and I'm very accessible, and like I said, I welcome all of my constituents to dialogue with me about issues that they have strong feelings about, as do I, and I don't have all the answers. I just have some strong beliefs and West Texas values that I try to apply to all the problems that our country's facing that we're trying to solve.
Fair enough. So let's dialogue then.
Okay, sure.
What's sort of your stance on this? Just a brief, I'm sure you already heard it, but their chants, don't separate, don't hate. It doesn't seem just an observer outside. It wasn't taking the adults and putting them away that was the issue. It was truly just the separation from adults and kids. I mean, they could even be both together in a cell, but together is what they were saying.
Yeah, I think they wanted to close. I think one of the themes for the protest are to close down these detention facilities. And my response is, if we would stop illegal immigration, if we would secure the border, we wouldn't have this humanitarian crisis. This humanitarian side that includes children and adults is a symptom of the root problem, the root cause, which is we have open borders and we have a broken immigration system. And my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, and I hate to make this partisan, but the Democrats have no interest in fixing it. Zero. Zero. I mean, my constituents and your viewers have to look no further than the Democrats running for president and every one of them raising their hands when asked, should we decriminalize illegal crossings into our sovereign country, A. B, should we give people who are here illegally free health care? And the answer is yes by all the Democrats, which means they're for open borders and de facto amnesty for people who are coming into this country. They don't want to solve the real problem. So if they're interested, and they're not, if they have a desire, and they don't, to solve this problem the right way at the root cause, then they would stop this nonsense and insanity of having people come here because we don't close the loopholes, because we have the magnets of jobs and of social services that bring people here, and we have asylum policies that aren't working. So there are a lot of ways to fix this. We all know what they are, and the Democrats don't want to do it. So now we do need, and I think everybody, Republican or Democrat, wants to make sure that people that we detained who are here illegally are treated with dignity, that they're given basic care, food, shelter, basic health care. I expect that. Those are consistent with our American values. I think every American, and certainly all my constituents that I talk to on both sides, expects that. I've been to the border. I've been to one of the most active parts of the border, the Rio Grande Valley sector. And for some of the Democrats to call what the border security agents are doing concentration camps is an absolute disgrace to our law enforcement. It's a disgrace, and it's disrespectful to the Jewish communities, because we're not using people as experiments like they did in Nazi concentration camps. We're not dismembering people. We're not gassing them. How outlandish, how ridiculous, how absurd. And so it's really difficult for me to actually, get to that place of dialogue with people that are making such wild accusations. Now, I don't know that the protesters did or didn't say that. I can just tell you that a lot of the Democrats that I'm working with make those very irresponsible statements. The president, for 60 days, along with Republicans in the House, tried to get humanitarian aid in a supplemental appropriations package through the House so that we could help relieve very crowded facilities. No question, the crowdedness was a real concern for all of us. And we needed that money to make sure that we could provide for the appropriate space, among other things, continued basic care as well. We were running out of money. The Senate passed that supplemental with 85 votes, completely bipartisan. And for 2 months, 18 attempts that Republicans and the president asked the Democrats, please don't politicize this. Please pass this humanitarian aid package so that we can deal with this crisis and help these poor people. And they wanted to play political games until they finally caved and passed it. Now we have gone from 2,500 children being detained in that initial short-term detention facilities that people are referencing, down to about 300 children. Okay, now they're moved to the HHS long-term care shelters that are much better environments for these kids. Now, nobody wants to separate children from their parents. Nobody wants that. This president doesn't want that. The law is that children cannot be detained for more than 20 days. In this country, our own citizens, when they are arrested and have children, are separated from their children. So we're this outcry of keeping the children and parents together. I understand where we can. I think this president is making every effort to do so, and I certainly would. But the fact is, if you break the law and you're incarcerated or detained waiting for your hearing in this country, you are separated from your children. Why in the world should we make it any different for people who break the law who are not citizens of this country? Again, I think that that we're not dealing with this in a way that's using a little West Texas common sense. And I also don't think it's a compassionate position for us to be in as a nation to not secure the border and stop illegal immigration, because we are basically encouraging, by our broken immigration system and leaving our system with open borders, de facto, we are encouraging people to make this dangerous trek from Guatemala and other countries in Central and South America, and they're risking their lives. The drug cartels are getting richer. They're using these poor people. They're using children as pawns. These children, I saw these unaccompanied minors. I have 3 young children, and I'm offended that a country as great as ours is not upholding the law, protecting our citizens, respecting our sovereignty, and securing the border. I'm offended that when we don't do that, we actually create this cottage industry where the drug cartels are making money off of poor people, and 1 out of every 3 women are getting sexually assaulted on their way to the promised land of this country. And it is awful that we continue to incentivize this, and we know what to do. We have the comprehensive plan of technology, of boots on the ground, infrastructure. We know what to do. the Democrats, and there are some that I work well with, but the Democratic Party under Nancy Pelosi is absolutely unwilling to do anything to stop it. So yeah, we can treat the symptom, and we should treat every immigrant that we're detaining with respect and dignity, because we're Americans and it's the right thing to do. But if we want to really stop this and not be here every year spending billions of dollars and having these poor people being exploited and risking their lives, and children used as visas to get into this country, because that's what people are doing. They're using children because they know what our policies are, and they know that we're going to release people with their children into the interior of our country. Most of those folks will never show up for their hearing. 9 out of 10 do not have legitimate asylum claims, and we're stuck with this mess and chaos where the only person I know that's really taking it seriously and taking action that's making a difference, because we can't do anything with Democrats in charge in the House, is the President of the United States. President Trump worked with Mexico to secure Mexico's border. Mexico is doing a better job at securing the border and stopping illegal immigration than the United States is, because the president worked a deal out with them, and the Mexican officials have actually done such a good job over the last several months that we've seen a 43% reduction in illegal border crossings, because the Mexican officials are actually taking this seriously. So the president can't get Congress, or the Democrats really in Congress, to do anything. So he's doing everything he possibly can. He's doing the expedited deportation with those who've been here for 2 years, who've had their day in court. They've had due process under our judicial system. They've been given the same sort of right to due process as any American, and they've been found to be here without legitimate asylum claim and to have broken the law. And those folks who've been here for 2 years or less under the president's new expedited deportation plan are being sent back to their country of origin. That's just called good old-fashioned law enforcement. So people are calling it raids and oh, he's separating families. Listen, we are a nation of laws. Our democracy is built on some core principles, and one of those is rule of law. The president is doing his job, and he's doing the only taking the only action and getting results separate and apart from the dysfunctional Congress, including doing a deal with Guatemala to keep folks who are seeking asylum in their home country until we can vet that out in terms of whether or not it has legitimate asylum substance. That's a more humane way, that's a safer way, and if they have legitimate asylum claims, we want America to be a place of refuge for those folks, and we welcome them. And I want to say to my constituents, I welcome the immigrant. I think the immigrant story and the American story are inseparable. And we want people coming from all over the world who are hungry for freedom and opportunity and a better life for their families. I want that, and I know that my colleagues in Congress want that on both sides of the aisle. But I will only welcome them if they respect our laws, our sovereignty, and the security and safety of the American people. That means do it the legal way, do it the right way, and we will welcome you. We will welcome you. We represent 5% of the world population, the United States does, but we represent 20% of the immigrant population in the world. No one is more welcoming to the immigrant than the United States of America. And if you watch cable news or you went to some of these protests, you might think differently, but that's not true. America is a melting pot and a land of immigrants who seek freedom and opportunity, and it always has been and always will. But we are a nation of laws, and our president, his job is to enforce them. And if we don't like them, then Congress has to change them. And there are plenty that we need to change. Now that's a long statement, but I feel very strongly about this issue.